Hi, it's so good to see you. Welcome back to the In Between and this brand new series that I'm calling Recognizing Yourself in the In Between. My name is Camille. If this is by chance your first video, welcome. If you've just stepped on to the In Between, you'll get some additional insight that you can put into your toolbox as you begin your own journey from perhaps an ending to a brand new beginning, or from who you were to who you are becoming. I'll be sure to include the playlist link in the description above so that you can begin your walk with us. The thing about the in between that I've come to realize, taking a few days to really sit with my own personal profound experience of what I've gone through and what's happened within me as I've been sharing this content with you in a way that I never have before, is that there is a wisdom nestled within the in between. And that's because there's a wisdom nestled within all of life. And turns out there's a wisdom nestled within yourself. And so the beauty of having walked already, and now perhaps exhaling, steadying yourself a little bit from the craziness that you've just come through, you have insight that you didn't have before. Because when you walk the in between for the first time, it's not about hindsight or, mindfulness or a deeper awareness. No, you're in the dark night of the soul. You've been cracked open. You're hurting. You don't know what the heck is going on. It doesn't feel good. You're scared. And none of that exists. And even if it did, you're just not in a place to see it. And that's the way it's supposed to be. Because the beginning times of transformation requires all your attention. And as we've learned in the change cycle, it requires you to be brave. And so let's take a look from that perspective of hindsight, from the greater awareness that we now have because we've already walked it once. Maybe you even want to have a journal or take notes on your phone or on your computer as you're having your own insight and as new revelations are revealing themselves to you so you can capture that as we walk. There are 5 areas of the change, of the map rather, of the in between. And the first one is the change cycle. And as I was looking at all of this the other night myself, watching the videos again, really reading the descriptions that I wrote for each video, and having my own moment, my own revisiting of the change cycle and all the videos, several things revealed themselves to me that even I didn't notice the first time around, or even when I was designing and putting this content together. Like, for example, the change cycle is the only area of the in between that actually has the word cycle in its title. Turns out that's absolutely purposeful. That's part of that intelligence because the change cycle is the only area of the in between that you come back around to over and over and over again. It's not linear. Change is cyclical. And whether it's because you've graduated high school or you just lost your job, you will step back onto the path of the in between over and over and over again. And that's why it's my hope that by doing this new series with you, not only will you be able to recognize the guideposts along the way because you've already walked it, and now we're looking at it with a heightened sense of curiosity, right? We are in a mode of discovery to see what it was perhaps we couldn't see the first time that now we're ready to find. That you will be able to say, wow, this is what I am like when I step on the in between. Oh, wow, look at what I'm experiencing. It must be because I've just stepped on to the in between. So, along with the name cycle, there are some other things about the change cycle that I find absolutely fascinating. And again, please use the comments to share your own insight with me, even if it's happening in real time. I'd love to read what aha moments you're having so we can continue this exchange in the comments. The change cycle begins with the change itself, and there's a few ways where that happens. Of course, the first video describes it. You're cracked open. Your heart is cracked open. your life is cracked open, either because there's been a medical diagnosis, there's been death, there's been an unexpected ending. There's all sorts of ways that you can be cracked open. And when it happens, you know it because you don't feel the same way anymore. COVID cracked us open. That's why everybody said, when are we going back to normal? Because normal is what we knew. And that's why another aspect of the change cycle, along with being cracked open, is what we call sacred disruption. However, the first time through, there's nothing sacred about it, right? The sacred part comes with hindsight. After having gone through it, you can perhaps look back and go, oh my gosh, now I see why that disruption happened. But at the time, whatever it is that's turning your life upside down, whatever is disrupting your life, disrupting the plans, disrupting the future that you thought you'd have, there's nothing sacred about it. It's the dark night of the soul, and sometimes it comes upon us quite swiftly and gets all of our attention. Sometimes over time, however it is, either cracked open, sacred disruption, or both. Those are the kinds of moments that tell you, I'm in the in-between once again. And if this is your first video and you're having that experience, well, now you know that you have just stepped on the in-between and the path has begun to the greater version of yourself. A couple other things about the change cycle that I thought was really fascinating. The drift. Once you have this moment of being cracked open, once your life has been thrown upside down, oftentimes you can't go back. That's the thing about COVID. When everybody said, when are we going back to normal? Look how long it took for our minds to accept, for our hearts and our lives to be able to comprehend and accept that we were never going to go back to normal. Normal was gone. And that's why that was such an amazing, historic, collectively historic experience. And that's what happens to us individually. Maybe you're going through that right now, where you can't go back. As much as you maybe want to go back to the way it was, you can't even find it anymore. That's another way to know that you've stepped onto the in-between, because you're not who you were anymore, and you can't see who you are becoming. You've left the shore, there's no going back, but you don't see any land in front of you, and you are drifting. You are in a space of chaos and confusion, and it can be a very unsettling time. But because we've walked it already, we know that up ahead are the helpers. Not to take away the walk we must walk, but to remind us that there are guides and guidance along the way. That's something else I noticed about the in-between and the change cycle, because it asks us at some point, change does, to be brave, to have courage. And when I watched that courage video again, I saw many times that I was also talking about fear. And fear is part of the inner landscape. Fear is part of the natural experience we feel when we're going through change. Of course you're going to feel fear if you've been cracked open, your life's been turned upside down, and you're drifting into the dark night of the soul. It's totally normal and natural. And so I was noticing, once again, it's not linear, because fear is really the other side of the coin that is courage. These two moments in two separate areas of the map cross-reference each other, and I find that to be so incredibly helpful. So you've been cracked open, your life has been disrupted, you're floating, you're drifting, you're in the dark night of the soul, you're feeling confusion and chaos, and yet change asks you to be brave. It asks you to have courage. Sometimes you can't get on that train the first time around. I know that's been true for me. It's like, really? You want me to be brave? I don't think so. I can't even get out of bed. You'll have to come back another day. And guess what? It does. So no pressure, no forcing yourself. Be compassionate, be gentle. Just know that if life is asking you to be brave and to have courage, and you simply can't find it no matter how deep you dig within yourself, that means it's not your time yet. You're dealing with other things that are more important. and have to be addressed before before you can even begin to consider where your courage might be. That's also true about release and letting go, because at some point change says to us, sometimes change rips it right out of our hands, depending upon how long we've been holding it and how tight we've been holding it. But at some point, change says, you got to let go. You got to have the courage to release. You have to, at some point, trust that even though you can't see it, and even though it feels scary, that there's something that is working for you and is preparing yourself for the greater version of who you're about to come. This is the other part of the change cycle that to me is the most profound. I just have such respect for the chrysalis, because think about this. You're cracked open. You're completely disoriented. You're overwhelmed with chaos, confusion, and uncertainty. You feel fear while your mind is saying, oh, you shouldn't feel that. Be brave. You're trying to navigate what the hell is happening so that you can get up every day, get yourself out the door, get the kids out the door, get yourself out of bed. None of this is easy. All of it is real and part of the process of change, uncertainty, and transformation. But when you've walked it and you come back and walk it again, and you arrive at this moment when you can see that you are entering the dark night of the soul, look at any picture of the caterpillar as it walks across the stem or the leaf. It literally is the thing. It is the one that begins to spin the cocoon for itself. There's an intelligence within the caterpillar that knows that the best thing for it is this enclosed chrysalis that has the exact environment, not only for its death, because the caterpillar must release itself, literally. It must die to itself in order to become the butterfly. This is how profound this moment is for you. This is what's being asked of you. And so when you walk it the second time and you're at the threshold of the chrysalis, when you know, oh, I need to spin a cocoon around me. I need to say no. I need more time alone. I need more time in nature. I have to decline that invitation. I need to take a break from all the stimulation because it's overwhelming me. That's you entering the cocoon. That's how you can recognize that not only have you stepped onto the path of the in-between, but you have begun to spin for yourself a chrysalis to protect you, to create the ideal environment for that dark night of the soul, so you can do that deep soul work, so you can let go, so you can have faith, and ultimately find the courage to be brave. Because the other incredible part of the change cycle, along with the chrysalis and your willingness to trust, is that moment when you go from being cracked open to having a breakthrough. Again, when you look at the early stages of the chrysalis, you can see it. But then there comes a clear part where you can't see through it. You're in it. You're behind the curtain. You're in the darkness. But as you walk, as you have faith in what you can't see, as you begin to trust yourself, no matter how hard it is, what happens soon after all of that, even before the breakthrough, is you can see through the chrysalis. We can see in and you can see out. There is light at the end of the tunnel. And there comes that moment because you've had the courage and you stayed with it. Because you've walked it once already and you know and you recognize yourself. And now you're willing to create the environment that you need for the optimal experience of your dark night of the soul. Now you know what's required. Wow. When that moment comes and you have strengthened your resolve, where something within you tells tells you, reveals to you it's time, when you see that light at the end of the tunnel and the next thing you know, your wings expand, something cracks open in a way that is more like a breakthrough. Wow, that is the moment in which you take flight and you can see exactly why you had to go through what you had to go through. It is from that perspective of flight that you can look back with deep reverence and respect, not just for the in-between, not just for the change cycle and what it holds for you, but for yourself. That you were brave, that you stayed with the dark night, that you stayed with your feelings, that you allowed yourself to let go and walk the profound and sacred path that is the in-between. Thanks so much for watching.